swifter than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound.
Well, welcome to a special edition of the Film On podcast, where I'm joined with Mr. Paul Farren.
Hello, pleased to meet everybody.
And Scott Adair.
Good evening.
I suppose both say who you are and what you do.
I'm a sometime filmmaker and sometime writer with Film Ireland, and I read too many comics, and that's still not enough.
I am a sometime comic book guy who works in a comic book store called Forbidden Planet, and that's my life.
Well, if the giveaway wasn't there, we're discussing pretty much exclusively DC Universe stuff today in light of a certain film that may have come out recently. Don't know if you heard about it. Got a bit of marketing.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, Paul, you seem to have a lot of opinions on this from talking to you beforehand, so start us off.
Well, I'm probably the softest critic of this film, I think. I followed too much of the hype, and so I went in with low expectations. So I came out happy enough.
Really? Because the impression I got from you from emails and stuff, I thought you loved it and you were really pumped for it, so you didn't like it.
No, I did like it. I
Okay.
didn't hate it. I kind of fell on the film's side because it got such a bashing. Mm-hmm. I suddenly felt that I needed to go with the underdog. And suddenly the film became an underdog because it got such a kicking. It was shocking. I like changing camps as much as possible.
Oh, that's good.
But I think, for me, we were saying this earlier, I think the marketing kind of didn't help. It was so hyped and the expectations were so high. And I don't know what they were high for. That's down to people's own desires and needs from what they expect to get from a comic book film. And I think a lot of people, including Zack Snyder, believe it or not, I think he got more of a kicking than he deserved as well. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the marketing of the movie actually killed it for me personally. When I saw the second trailer, I was really bummed out compared to how excited I was when I saw the first trailer. Yeah. So that caused me to go into the movie with low expectations. I wasn't expecting to love it, and I came out really happy. And what made me love the movie more and made me go to the cinema and watch it another 2 times was the fact that anytime I saw something online, I saw Snapchat, I saw WhatsApps from my friends, and they were just like, "It's terrible. It's the worst movie I've ever seen." And I'm like, where were you? Were you watching the same thing I watched? I was like, have you ever read a comic book before? Because that's exactly what you were watching. And I was like, sometimes the script isn't portrayed as well as it could be from a comic book. But I had no problems with that movie, bar pacing. I felt like you could easily tell that there was a lot cut out.
There was 100-mile-an-hour beginning to that film.
Yeah.
And not a single establishing shot, just location, character. I'm interested, though, you're saying that was exactly like a comic book movie, or a comic book. Really? It's like a Frank Miller comic.
It's multiple comic books, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like it goes across multiple genres and multiple styles. It can go, when you have Lois Lane going and doing her own thing, she's the reporter / detective trying to figure out who's behind all this. And that ties into the overall finding out that Lex Luthor was behind everything. He was like creating this hatred between the two heroes.
I think another interesting thing about it as a piece of story that through people was that Superman is not really in a position of doing anything until almost the end of the film.
Until he's forced.
They're totally unaware of any conspiracy. And that made it, in some ways, a Batman movie with a Superman guest appearance.
Well,
discuss.
The impression I got from a lot of the pre-release stuff was that this did start off as basically Man of Steel 2. Then they were like, okay, put Batman in. Then it became just Justice League lead in. But it sounds like from the way they tested this one with audiences, they did intentionally cut down Superman stuff and put in more Batman stuff.
Considering it was actually a Superman movie.
Now, I've read now that Zack said he was never intending it as a sequel.
He said that since then, yeah. But then again, he also said Man of Steel wasn't meant to be the Justice League or the sort of DC Universe, and that ended up being that.
But that's also completely evident when you watch Man of Steel and you watch Batman vs Superman.
Absolutely,
you realize that there's no mention of anyone. Like they had that very, very brief moment where in the Battle of Metropolis between Zod and Superman in Man of Steel, that everyone's like, if you freeze frame a certain shot, you can see Wayne, the Wayne Enterprise building. But that's the only indication you got that there was any sort of hero. Like people,
There was a LexCorp satellite in there as well.
Yeah, that's when he was in space. So
There was whales. People assumed the whales meant Aquaman.
I thought the introduction of the metahumans was a little throwy and clunky.
Atrocious. It was
When
absolutely atrocious.
Aquaman came out of his little rock pool, it was like he was in an aquarium somewhere.
that kind
looked
of
terrible.
I didn't really like. That's the kind of thing that I don't even think about when I talk about how much I like the movie, because like that sequence where he's going through the computer files and he's seeing those logos that are already there.
I
So I'm
love
like,
that. I love it. So I came across a thing where some guy was giving out about that he found the DC comic files. I think that was done with tongue firmly in cheek.
Yeah, I think it's a really easy way to introduce the fact that there are other metahumans out there.
The quick version.
Yeah, it's pretty much quick gist. That's
But it was quick, but it was literally just trailers. Like, it was literally trailers for upcoming movies in the order they're coming out. Like, I did hate it, but the reason I hated it is because the way they brought in Flash earlier on in the movie without explaining him, like, that was the best way of doing it, because audiences aren't going to care. Like, a general audience won't care anyway these people are. So if you're going to do it in a way that's only going to be for comic book fans, do it in a way that doesn't draw attention to itself. But that Flash bit, the Flash time travel bit was great.
Yeah.
More of that would have been nice.
Well, interesting criticism early days was, all the way through, was the dream sequences. And in fact, they're not actually dream sequences, are they?
That's to be debated, I think.
I think they all are, bar one.
Well, bar one, and I think the only one that isn't is the Flash actually visiting him from out of.
I know there's an awful lot of information in the whole Desert Apocalypse stuff that was
Yeah,
very
that's
much reflecting the
all
dark
their-
side universe.
All they're looking to do there is just, foreshadow what's coming, and that obviously it is foreshadowed again at the end of the movie with Lex in the cell.
In an inexplicable character turn that only got made sense when the lead scenes started coming out.
Yep. His utter madness. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that's probably my biggest issue of the whole movie is Lex. I don't know what way they wrote that character. He had no clear motivation, or rather he had 5 different motivations, none of which gelled or made sense. And like, I didn't actually hate Eisenberg's performance. Like, it wasn't very Luthery, but it was fun, I guess. But I didn't understand what his motivation was, because he initially says it's just Superman's super powerful, then it's a whole dad god thing, and then it's suddenly Darkseid's coming,
he
which
was
he
obviously-
inexplicably knew.
Well, he came off as a wee bit of a prophet at the end, didn't he?
Mm.
He more or less said there's big nastiness on the way and you're not prepared for it.
I think the reason.
And there's some I came across there's a bigger bit of business in the ship with Luthor.
Yeah, that was the deleted scene they released just 2 days after the movie came out, I think.
Yeah, that was very quick.
with the alien.
Yeah.
Steppenwolf.
The apocalypse.
So
alien.
again, that's all well and good to say, but it should have been more implied better in the film.
It should have been, and also I think even the whole prophet angle at the end makes no sense. Because if he's like, you're not prepared for this, then why did he kill Superman? Superman's the one person potentially capable of thwarting a Darkseid invasion. Why would you intentionally kill that man and then go, oh, there's worse stuff coming, and I just killed our one deterrent?
Well, this might be a good time to go back and look at the Luthors of the past, right? Because in the
I shall
golden age,
step outside for a moment.
in the golden age of Superman, Luthor, as we know, was bald. I was a bit surprised that he was bald through shaving and that, and not by hanging around with kryptonite for too much. I hoped his hair would just fall out. But apparently, that's what happens in the golden age. Is that his hair fell out.
There's a fire, yeah.
And again, from dabbling in too much kryptonite, I think. And that's why he hates Superman. But that's evolved quite nicely. I mean, there's in the comic books, and we were talking about All-Star Superman, Grant Morrison and
Great
Frank
run.
Quitely's piece, which is a lovely nod to the Golden Age comics. Again, which most people don't really read. That 1950s, early 1960s stuff. They're great fun.
It's hard to read these days.
They're fairy tales. Beautiful artwork. I absolutely stand by the artwork. It's absolutely gorgeous. And they are naff to look back on, but I appreciate that. But to talk about Lex, I mean, look at all the reinventions of him over the years. And he's been reinvented about 3 or 4 times. I think in the DC universe, he's actually a hero at the moment. Or he was there about
He's
a year
on the
ago.
Justice League, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, he's in
I
the
think he's
Justice
still a
League.
sort of.
He finally
morally
became the
great
hero
character.
that Superman is. And also they put in the whole love interest thing. When John Byrne got on board, it was all to do with love of Lois. I mean, the most loved woman that you're going to ever created in comic book universe, but that's another story. So, yeah, I just think that the pure jealousy works for that character, but they still needed a little bit more in terms of his insanity, because there was some throwaway moments that I did like, but I watched like when he blows up the Senate with poor old Holly Hunter. And you saw that coming with the little jar. What was the reference?
Granny's peach tea.
Yeah, and don't give me piss and tell me it's Granny's peach tea.
I thought that was a really good scene.
Yeah, and he throws that poor girl, that poor sexy aide of his.
Oh,
he threw her away as it just kind of
She knew it was happening as well. Like you could see when she looked in the seat. And
oh yeah, but there was a bit of a look. We're all going to blow up.
That's it.
And there's no reason why she died. Maybe
I liked the machinations there. I thought they were silly, but I did enjoy them. But again, it's always a little bit more. You felt that you were doing a bit more work in terms of helping the story along than the film was actually doing. And also, I mean, to do more criticisms, I wanted more Clark Kent. Not the buffoon. We can't do, unfortunately, the buffoon of Clark Kent. Which is a shame because it's an interesting persona, and again, Grant Morrison did a great job of that in All-Star Superman. You understood it in a very more profound way than some of the other films. Though, to hark back to 1979 and Superman the movie, I mean, listen to that title. It was called Superman the Movie on all the posters because it was such an event that you're actually going to see someone actually flying, and it didn't look like they were flattened against a green screen. And
well, it does now in hindsight. But
well, some of it works beautifully. There's some amazing acrobatics in that film in the early days. And like, I'm so surprised that we don't have a lot more just using CGI to just rub out the wires and let the wires do all the work. And you have some amazing flying scenes. But that Superman and that Clark Kent were quite interesting. And that was a battle of seriousness versus campness. And I think part of the problem is now suddenly with, again, a major criticism for this one has been it's too serious. Like, everybody wants their cake and eat it.
Yeah.
You know,
I still feel like in terms of the whole serious versus camp thing, the first Avengers movie hit the right balance tone-wise in that there's jokes in it, but then it's dramatically viable, whereas something like Age of Ultron is too far the other way, where it's just jokes, there's no stakes, no drama. This one, I like what they were going for with it. I don't think it quite made it there. Like, there are jokes in that screenplay, and I did laugh at them, but it's too serious that then when it goes in for the more comic booky moments, the more sort of campy moments like the whole Martha thing, it just falls apart around itself. It doesn't hold up.
I was surprised that one went all the way to the shoot, to be quite honest.
The Martha thing.
Yeah, I was. So just to explain to people who haven't seen the film.
Oh, it's not worth it.
They both have moms called Martha. That is, but only Batman's mother is his actual birth mother. But Superman's still alive. So Batman gets to not save his mother's life by saving Superman's mother's life.
But here's the thing I will say about that, because before this movie came out, they were going on and on and on about how this was so intelligent and audiences won't get it. And I think I know what they mean. Like, the idea of layering in the mother thing is actually not that bad of an idea. Because
it's not at all.
Because usually it's Jonathan Kent, it's Jor-El, it's Thomas Wayne, they get the main focus. Like, Martha Wayne gets barely looking in any comics, even not really much.
You didn't really even see her face.
No, but actually that's true.
Like you saw her eye at one point after she
her
had
blood-soaked eye
been shot.
Well, she wasn't. What's his face? Who played
Thomas
Wayne?
Oh,
Jeffrey
Dean Morgan.
Blank. Anyway, the point I was going to finish was usually, like, look at the Chris Nolan Batman movies. It's all about father figures. It's Ra's, it's Thomas Wayne, it's all the crap. Whereas I like the idea of this one being about Martha Kent, being about Martha Wayne. It's all about mother figures, and that nicely changed the dynamic of these movies. But they did nothing with it, and it was just a weird, very like surface level plot point, and I thought that was a waste opportunity.
It felt like an easy way to go about ending it and getting them to be friends before Doomsday showed up.
Exactly.
I think.
Also, the pacing of that was very badly placed because she more or less turned up so that we'd understand why she was kidnapped. Yeah. I mean, the amount of scenes between that moment and the kidnapping were about 3 or 4. It's like, let's show Mom so you know who she is again from the last film, and then we're going to put her in peril.
It's the same with the Waynes in the opening bit. Like, that opening sequence is only there so that Thomas Wayne can scream Martha so the audience knows her name. That's the only reason that sequence is there.
And also that Zack can show off that he loves Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And copy nearly every frame from Dark Knight Returns.
I did love that opening. Like,
someone said that the most killed couple on screen ever are Thomas and Martha Wayne. And that is one of the more lavish versions of their death I've seen.
It was. I felt like that whole opening with the sort of the score and everything. It kind of got me going. I was like, you know what? I'm ready for this movie. I'm ready to see what they've got next. And then when it went into the Metropolis scene,
gets even better.
Earth is introduced to the Superman. They called him the Superman, and I was like, yes. I was like, and then you see everything from Bruce Wayne's perspective, and I'm like, you know what? This is going to be really good.
And then 18 months later, and
Yeah, and then it kind of just for an hour and a half, it just took a downturn. You know, it was really slow paced. Nothing really.
But even that Metropolis opening sequence, the setup for the mother thing is there again because it's Bruce saving that small child and going, "Where's your mommy?" And it's like, "Oh, she's dead." And Superman killed her mother too. Like they tried to layer it in, and then they just gave up, I guess.
Well, if you look at the film in terms of the old archetypal hero's journey, it's Bruce Wayne's journey that we're really following through the story.
Yeah.
Superman's is the subplot of the film.
Yeah.
It's about him realizing, trusting and knowing who your allies are over who your enemies are. That was what they were trying to convey.
Yeah.
As I said, the argument was it too simplistic? It's a movie. I don't think we get really. If you want to go and look for something really, really profound, go and read Tolstoy.
They're just moving pictures after all. Some
But
guy in a
wonderful
cave.
moving pictures though. What did you guys think of the CGI? And there was an awful lot of people seem to give out about Doomsday looking like a giant turd. I wasn't upset by it, but I don't think CGI monsters have come along very well over the years.
He looks like a giant turd in the comics anyway. He just has white
There you
spikes
go,
coming
yeah.
out of him. That's really it.
He's not a very visually interesting character, certainly.
Funnily enough, I got a book in work on Wednesday, and it's the concept art of Batman vs Superman. And Doomsday looks almost identical to how he looks in the Death of Superman arc, where Doomsday is first introduced and into that battle sequence kind of thing. Yeah, he's a lot more spikier.
Which they kind of got a bit towards in the movie, like his second or third
it was building
iteration.
it,
Yeah,
and
it was kinda
then that ending happened.
I liked him. I have to say,
I did. Yeah,
in terms of CGI, it is what it is, but I liked it.
they were building it to the point where every time he gets really badly damaged, that he becomes more powerful and he evolves. And I think they could have done it a couple more times where they could have done it in waves, but by the time he had actually grown the big spikes out of his arm after Wonder Woman cut his hand off, I felt like it could have went another 2. They could have extended that scene a bit more, but I felt like they didn't have enough to do with it. It was so sectioned in one area where they didn't want to go and destroy another city.
Well, they didn't mind doing it this time, but they made sure to let you know there was no inhabited areas. Every second line, it's okay, it's empty, there's no one there. The workday was over, it's fine.
There's no one on that island. There's no one in those docks. That's it.
I did find that funny. Just Zack Snyder's.
I do, because there was all the critique over Man of Steel, but we've had so much of it with Avengers and everything else.
The difference
damage.
is, though, Avengers, the entire final battle sequence is just them saving civilians, whereas Man of Steel, he doesn't try and save anyone. Like, I get the argument that he's probably throwing Zod towards emptier buildings and stuff, but
He's trying to stop
he
it.
could have saved a single person. I thought he saved people at the very, very end of that
But
fight,
he also couldn't, like, he's only new to his powers essentially at this point. He only is, he's discovering himself as a hero in Man of Steel, and you could see in the sort of final sequence of Batman vs Superman, he can hear Lois drowning, and I was like, I don't think he had that sort of high sensitivity.
I'd agree with that,
Yeah, it's like,
I still feel your first thought wouldn't be to let's fight in a major metropolitan area, let's go to space. And the only reason he didn't go to space was Zack Snyder wanted to show that city blowing up. Like, that wasn't even a
he
character
also wanted
choice.
to do the nuke scene as well. Like, that was in the Dark Knight Returns, but they didn't do it as well as they did it in the, first of all, the animated movie and in the comics.
So good.
The animated movie where Superman falls to Earth and he's all haggard looking because he'd just been nuked, and he falls to the ground and he soaks up all the energy from the flowers in the ground. I would have loved to have seen that instead of him just basking in the sunlight like he did in the movie. I felt like they could have done a lot more with that. They could have done that a lot better.
But that, I think, is the main problem with the entire movie, is that Zack Snyder, I don't think, gets these characters. He loves the visuals of it, and I think he is a great visual filmmaker, but he can't tell a good story.
Yeah.
Like, I really like Sucker Punch, but it's not a good movie, but it looks great. 300 again, it's all just about Frank Miller's visuals.
Yeah, I think Sucker
Watchmen
Punch, though,
as well.
is a total aberration. I wouldn't even hold that against him. It's just one particularly bad day he had.
But again, like, the subtext of that movie is really interesting. It's just terribly done.
But okay, so just I'm curious to think how this is going to affect the battle of the franchises. Now, as we said, DC are doing it. I think one of their biggest problems was they're trying to do a big catch up on Marvel. Marvel now in phase 3 at this stage, aren't they?
No, so 3.
Yeah, they're in phase 3. They've had 2 Avengers movies. They've had the Hulk, Iron Man.
I think they're on 12.
They've
or
managed to
13
go
films.
nice left to center film with Ant-Man, which I really enjoyed. Though I have to say the first 20 minutes were nearly painful. Took a while to get warmed up to, but it did.
Which movie?
Ant-Man.
Batman?
No, I loved it, but the first 20, I thought that was the clunkiest beginning to a film in a while. Yeah, apart from the Michael Douglas, look at me, I'm young again scene.
I thought that was cool. I was like,
And
what?
I
That wasn't good CGI.
Yeah, that's good CGI.
because they attempted that. Remember they attempted it years ago on one of
Ian
the
McKellen
X-Men
and
movies. Yeah,
Patrick Stewart,
yeah.
it's terrible.
that's. I hope they fix that in the future. Do a George Lucas on it. But the serial nature of this, in a way, you can actually blame Star Wars for this. It goes back to the 80s when Empire Strikes Back gave us a movie with a cliffhanger, which again is a throwback to the old serials that would have kept kids busy on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, except for this.
So, what the argument is that DC have pushed it too far in creating too many little threads that have nothing to tie them up. I think Wonder Woman being the biggest.
Well, her movie's out next, so
That's
I think
next year as well, isn't it?
Well, Suicide Squad first, then her.
Oh yeah, well that's gonna have Batman in it, but I don't know in what context that'll take place.
Also, actually, to quickly go back to that, if Batman is now killing constantly in these movies, why wouldn't he kill the Joker the first time he shows up?
I don't think
There's no reason he can't just break his neck now.
I don't think that the Batman sequence in Suicide Squad is going to be in present time.
It'll be a prequel.
It's going to be a flashback to before.
Well, the rumor is it'll be the death of Jason Todd. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
I think it's going to be a 10-minute
great.
sequence. Yeah, it's going to be deep, man.
So full of intelligence.
Apparently, that's been cursed with a lot of reshoots and attempts to inject
Well,
humor.
okay, here's the thing about that. I don't mind the injection of humor, but everyone's going, "Oh, Batman Superman did so bad." Everyone's like, "It's too grim and serious." Reshoots, but you can't, in a week, decide to do reshoots on a major blockbuster. That was planned weeks in advance. They had to book studio space, get the actors
no,
back.
I wasn't saying they just did it on Tuesday.
Oh, everyone else is saying that though.
They saw the reviews and they're like, "Oh no, we need to do this again."
Because
Get Will Smith in here right now.
Get him back.
when Superman or Batman versus Superman, I always keep saying Superman versus Batman for some reason. I think it's because Superman came out first, and in my mind, it should go that way. I'm surprised they didn't market it that way. Have two different titles knocking around. But there's another beast. They were very quick to get it out, very close to the reviews. They did not want those reviews out quick. So that to me is based on previews going back weeks, months before, and then they may have made those decisions. But they're cramming in something like 5 movies in the next 2 years, I think.
Which isn't, in this modern, at least, era, that out of the norm. But it is weird given that, like Marvel built up to that, doing like, 5 movies a year.
They started it.
Well, they started, yeah. Where I do feel DC, I'm kind of glad they're doing this, because when they first announced that Man of Steel wouldn't be standalone, that it would be the first leading Justice movie, like, oh god, because I didn't want to face 6 more origin movies, then a Justice League movie 5 years down the line. I'm kind of glad they're just going, screw it, it's happening in 2 years' time, and just fix it from there, I guess. But it is already showing the cracks, and yeah, obviously what Marvel did made a lot more sense. It took its time, whereas this one is just, here's a Superman movie, here's a Batman Superman movie, also Wonder Woman's there, and then they're all going to show up next one. Like, fine. I'm still looking forward to Justice League. I kind of secretly hope Zack Snyder gets fired before it starts shooting.
It's shooting in the next 2 weeks.
He's not going to get fired.
I had the same feeling. I when I first sort of posted my thoughts online about the movie, I said that I feel like Zack Snyder should leave the franchise. If he can't convey that story, like if his storytelling isn't as strong as others, I think he should have stepped down. Like the pacing issues are what got me with Batman vs Superman. Like I'm not so much annoyed at the fact that they're trying to do all these different things, like the Flashpoint paradox and all the origin stories at once. It's a lot to take in for like the casual moviegoer who just likes to see people in capes fighting each other. But it's a lot to sort of when you
they do make up for a lot of the revenue.
Yeah, like I think all the origin stories, like when you think about how much Marvel made over the course of their phase 1 and their phase 2, like that's billions and billions and billions of dollars, whereas DC have now just decided to just start theirs from the get-go and set up their crossover movie, Justice League.
Well, the question there though is the audience appeal for the casual viewer spectacle or drama? Like I know people love the Chris Nolan movies because they're just really good, but I think there's a certain perceived notion that the only reason Marvel's doing well is because every movie is the same formula. It's colorful people show up, say some jokes, and then the last half an hour is explosions and
punches.
fighting. Yeah, which DC apparently went, well, let's just do that, and I guess it didn't work for them.
But I do think it was a kind of like a frantic clamoring of we gotta get these movies out, instead of let's not start on from the beginning, because at the end of the day, it's a sigh, you know. We have to start from the beginning. We have to do all these origin stories. We have to wait like 6 years to get this crossover movie that people are going to be pining for. Instead of let's just do it, but let's introduce 7 different stories in one movie, and people will be confused for the next few years, but it'll make sense.
But they have to do that because
Marvel have gotten away with that. I mean, God Almighty, when the hell is Thanos going to turn up?
he showed up briefly.
He was.
No,
he was in Guardians.
He mutters around on his planet in his big chair
in Sanctuary.
Bugger all.
See,
he's managed to link 3 movies, I think, at this stage, is it?
Mm-hmm.
but he is coming though. But I like the fact that the people on, like the heroes on Earth, still don't know about it. Whereas Batman now is aware that someone's coming from space to take over.
You just put a mad idea in my head. Do you remember the first time Marvel and DC actually met, and we had Superman and Spider-Man met? When are they going to do that?
Who did Wolverine work with on that crossover?
Was there a Wolverine crossover?
I think it was Wolverine and Batman.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, to see Thanos and Darkseid kick ass.
But there'd be no point. They're the same character. But that's
they're
I think
both
actually,
big and purple.
They're both big and purple. They both came from, was it Starling wrote the two of them, I think?
Jim
I
Starlin.
think the solicitors had that argument.
Well,
they're different characters. It's been proved.
But I mean, that's I think part of the catch-up thing that we're talking about is that DC could do this where they take all the origin movies, do them all one after the other. But by that point, Marvel have finished Infinity War and Thanos will be out. They need to get Darkseid out at least at the same time, if not before.
That's what
And
they're
that's
doing.
the
They're doing it
problem,
before. Like he'll definitely be in Justice League at some point.
Which I'm kind of looking forward to, because it seems like my big worry with Thanos is that Marvel have gone too far down the Joss Whedon-y, Robert Downey Jr. jokey lot at this point, that I think Thanos will probably be a fun villain, but not a very dramatically compelling one, whereas I'm actually dying to see DC's Darkseid, because he'll be so self-important and over-the-top and serious. Which you kind of want from your magical space Satan, so, you know.
Well, Darkseid is a very pragmatic character compared to Thanos. I don't know if you know.
Thanos is more
very well.
melodramatic, I suppose. Yeah.
Thanos, he worships death. Like
Literally.
that's his thing. He's like
Darkseid reminds me of Alan Moore's depiction of evil in Swamp Thing all those years ago. I don't you remember the Todd McFarlane where evil finally meets and it just knows that it is. And Darkseid has that bizarre attitude, which goes beyond the evil, whereas Thanos just wants to rule everything.
I think the nightmare sequence in the Batman vs Superman, I think that kind of really shows off what Darkseid will be about in terms of like the utter destruction of planet Earth. Like he saw like the flames and the destruction and everything. I think he's going to turn Earth into the planet that he's from, called Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Whereas Thanos just wants to rule with an iron fist. He wants like colonies and worlds to bow before him. It's an ego thing with that character. He likes to kill people. That's really it. There's no other sort of motive behind it. Well,
that's why I was saying earlier, we were talking about the dream sequences versus visions, as it were. And the Flash definitely was one. When we know this Lois Lane is a key. Have any ideas
really
what that's referring to?
Yeah, that I think
the Injustice timeline.
Injustice, possibly Flashpoint, Paradox.
Possibly Flashpoint, but the way Superman was seemingly at the head of an army and the whole "you took her away from me," that all seemed like directly referencing Injustice, I thought.
Yeah.
But
I think she's pregnant.
I think
whose baby?
They did take that nightmare sequence from Injustice, pretty much because I feel like Batman took the Joker's role, and if anyone's ever read the comics, is Joker causes Batman to kill Lois Lane.
No, it's he tricks Superman to kill Lois Lane.
Yeah. The Superman. Sorry, and Superman actually kills the Joker in front of Batman by punching him through his chest. Like they did that, but they didn't show it in any sort of graphic detail. Superman punching Batman, and I felt like that Biff should have just went through and came out the back.
That would have been pretty messy. I would have thought it wouldn't have gone right up through the head.
Yeah, but I felt like it would have worked really well considering how sort of dark that sequence was. Because for all you know, as a casual goer, he's like, oh, he's getting punched in the chest a little bit, or he's getting his nipples twisted. Who knows? Because it doesn't show you anything. I'm like, if you're gonna go dark, go whole hog, and don't hide anything.
Poor Henry Cavill though, or Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill in that sequence.
Mooper Sam.
I actually enjoyed
the
him.
face on him in that sequence though, with the big kind of the sourpuss "I'm evil now"
Scowl.
face was really kind of laughable, I thought.
While still in his blue and red suit.
Yep, shiny suit.
I didn't mind him now. I wasn't so impressed with Man of Steel. I thought the vulnerability was quite nice in this film. And he is like the softest person in the whole movie. I thought that was interesting because
he's naive.
Yeah, the naivety based on his own, not sense of omnipotence, but he knows that he's fairly safe. I mean, that was another interesting thing they brought up, was the fact that, well, of course you're not afraid. You're immune to everything.
Well, his
Whereas
mother
then he went and...
Yeah, he's confident to the point where he can just leave his mother in Kansas, like in Smallville, 900 miles away from Metropolis. Like, he doesn't have a
Lex knows everything.
Yeah, he does.
There was a lot of nice Easter eggs in there, but one Easter egg, I think it's an Easter egg anyway, that no one pointed out was... Do you remember the opening of the film? It's always been the mark of Zorro he's come from.
Oh,
I think Nolan had him come from an opera because he doesn't like movies and movies. He has an issue about that. I can't remember his excuse, but he didn't like. He felt it took away from the universe that he created to have something real from our world in that world. But if you remember, they're coming from Marcus Zorro. Everyone seems to think it's a double bill. It's not. There's a poster for Excalibur as well, which is a John Boorman movie shot in Wicklow. It's a King Arthur movie, and it's going to be on next Wednesday, according to the Billboard. See you next Wednesday. Yeah, which is a little reference to John Landis, who used to have "See You Next Wednesday" in all his movies. Coming next Wednesday instead of "See You Next Tuesday."
Which is a more modern club.
Do the letters, guys, and you'll know what that means. But that's not what I'm referring to. The end of the film, when Superman kills Doomsday, is reflective of how Arthur kills Mordred, his own evil son, at the very end of Excalibur. So all you guys go and get that movie and find out what I'm talking about. There's a death scene at the very end of that film, and it's reflective of that death scene.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, check it out. And Excalibur, it's dated, but it's still a great movie in a lot of ways. It's got a great Merlin in it, in Nicole Williamson. Have you guys seen this film?
No, unfortunately not.
Again, it's in there on purpose, I think. And
no, Zack Snyder is very scene literate, so that wouldn't surprise me to be a reference.
But the final battle reminded me of that final death scene that Superman has with Doomsday. That kind of a level of sacrifice in order to get rid of the evil.
Needless sacrifice, I think we should all add.
Well, as you say, maybe he knows more than he's letting on.
I still feel like, why couldn't he have just thrown the spear to Wonder Woman, let her do it, all's good?
Yeah, because she isn't affected by kryptonite.
I think we were back to Wonder Woman briefly. It's amazing what she's gotten away because she's so hot. Little or nothing was said about her. And I love the fact that she's on the plane and she's going, oh God, I better go and help them.
I thought she was the best.
They got away as well. And everyone's giving it, going, oh, I can't wait for Wonder Woman. And she was very underused.
Very underused, but at the same time, I've heard from the argument the reason people aren't complaining about her in this movie is because there's so little of her there, you can find a negative to grasp onto. But I still thought she was probably the best thing in it. I think the biggest fear...
Only when she had her suit on.
Well,
and that sword. And
I loved her in the civilian bits. She was really kind of Talia al Ghul-esque, and I thought she was great in those bits.
I love that sort of sense of cheekiness you get from her, like when she got knocked down and she
gives a smile. Yeah, no one else smiles.
I was like, oh yeah, that's it. She's gonna kick his ass. I love that.
I love the picture, the black and white picture from 1918 of her and the guys. Any idea who those guys were in that photo?
That's
Chris Pine.
The guy to the left is Chris Pine. So he.
Trevor.
Oh, so it was the actor Chris Pine.
That was Chris Pine, yeah.
So that's her crew in the upcoming Wonder Woman movie.
Oh, fantastic! So they're going to do a Captain America on it almost.
It's World War One instead of World War Two, but yeah, it is Captain America. But how great was her theme music?
Dude, yeah, it was so good. I love the fact that she just showed up.
So cheesy.
That was a nice mashup. I think everyone was getting a bit tired of Hans Zimmer, and I can see why he's retired. But Junkie XL involved with it as well. There was some great...
I think it was more Junkie than Hans Zimmer at this point. Because if you hear the Mad Max score from last year, that was sounded exactly the same as this movie. That was all Junkie XL.
It was good stuff on it. So I think, I don't know, I'm not going to worry about DC falling down and going bankrupt. And
it'll never happen.
I'd say a lot of merchandising.
They're actually in the middle of rebranding their whole comics. So there's this thing called Rebirth happening in the summer. So they're just starting everything over again,
which is their second universe-wide reboot in 5 years. I think.
Yeah, well they
very
did,
close.
They did the New 52 back in 2012,
and then what was that one a couple of years ago? The Brainiac thing.
Oh, Convergence.
Yeah, that sort of was a soft reboot again, wasn't it?
Because Marvel did their reboot, I think.
But Marvel's one's really well done. They spent 2 years building up to it.
Yeah, Time Is Ending,
which was a
that.
fantastic arc. Yeah,
I think DC they're always going to be for me behind Marvel in terms of their creativity.
It's annoying because I prefer DC's character set.
Yeah,
but
I
Marvel's
love
much
Batman.
better written.
I love Batman. I love Midnighter. There's just so many great characters in the DC universe. But I'll always Marvel everything at the minute.
So are they the leads, you think, in comic sales over DC still, or is it a...
Well, yeah, Batman is always going to be...
I think, the top 10s any given month, Batman tends to be pretty high up on it, but the rest of it tends to be fairly Marvel.
Going off our order numbers, Batman will always outsell every other DC character, especially because they have the Frank Miller storyline, the Dark Knight 3 Master Race. That's still going. It's constantly delayed. It's only on its third issue at the minute, and it started back in November.
And it's going to get away with it as well.
Yeah, he can get away with it because it's Frank Miller. He can get away with anything.
First series comic I've bought in years.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And because this is selling really well because people will go back and they'll buy the Dark Knight Returns, they'll buy the Dark Knight Strikes Back, and they'll get Master Race as well because it's all tied in.
It's kind of interesting, Mark, and it's a kind of Kandor Nazis kind of story seems to be brewing there.
Yeah, in the stories, they always refer to what the other heroes are doing because they're always never together. This one in Master Race, they're currently referring to what Wonder Woman's doing and what Adam is doing as well.
Who's the father of her son, by the way? I don't know. It's not another Superman child, is it? Batman? That girl is busy. But just to talk briefly about the whole television aspect of all this, whereas Marvel have kind of brought their TV worlds and their cinema worlds together, they're riffing off each other. I mean, I felt cheated when I went to see Avengers: Age of Ultron that I missed a whole chunk. If you know what I mean, there's that Hydra character, the Baron. What's his name?
Baron von Strucker.
But
he's not even in the show.
I know he's not.
He's referred to multiple times.
Exactly.
His son's in the show. That's kind of that's the tie-in.
Whereas DC are kind of keeping them quite separate.
They are, but the thing is, Marvel's big events always tend to just be usually aborted timelines. DC's big events are always alternate universes. Yeah, so I feel like what they're doing with TV shows, it's not intentionally smart, but I think it is kind of clever that once they do a big Crisis on Infinite Earths or something, they can bring in TV Flash, TV Arrow.
They can have darker
Gotham
versions of characters and stuff like that.
And don't forget, this notion of alternate Earths goes back to 1950s. It was and the Flash started.
But it's also in the movie as well when you think about it, that Flash sequence where
that's what I'm saying, that they seem to have this in mind.
Oh, definitely, they have to.
Because when in that sequence after the nightmare sequence where Batman is killed by Superman,
which itself is probably an alternate universe. And everything.
I think at the minute they're when you look at it, there's 3 worlds. So Flash is in the future. He wants to go back to the middle world, which would be a present, but instead he's actually going back to the past where he says, "Am I too soon? Oh, I'm too soon," and then he goes to remind Bruce Wayne that Lois Lane is the key to keeping Superman in check. I think that's
if that's the he was referring to.
I fair at him. You were right about him. Is he talking about Darkseid? Is he talking about Superman?
I feel it could be Cyborg if they're going to go with the New 52 route with that whatever that Mother Box thing is, or if it's not Mother Box, if it's the do you remember the character name from New 52? Did you read the what was the event? The big Justice League event, not Trinity War. What was after Trinity War?
I don't know anything after Trinity War. But I know that the Mother Box ties into Darkseid.
No, the one where it was the Crime Syndicate invasion.
Forever Evil.
Forever Evil, yes.
Oh, yes, that was
when
really
Cyborg wasn't Cyborg, he was character name. If that box from the Batman v Superman is that, then when they're saying you're right about him, it was always him, that could be Cyborg maybe if they're going to do the Injustice League or not Injustice League Crime Syndicate plotline. I apologize to any casual listener for the Moron podcast.
Yeah, we've gone off on
this has gone full nerd.
Yeah.
But okay, to pull it back full nerd, I felt the biggest logic issue in the Batman Superman movie was Wonder Woman and Batman turn up for Clark Kent's funeral.
More than that.
Discuss.
No, wait, because if Superman dies, they can bring him back easily. But Clark Kent is canonically dead now.
He cannot
How do they
come
do
back.
that?
But they didn't explain how he died.
No, he just
And
died.
He's kind of missing rather than dead, isn't he?
I think he was collateral damage.
I mean, who's in what coffin? There's 2 coffins went into the ground at the same time. Was there supposed to be anyone in either of those coffins?
No, Superman is in the one in Kansas, and they said the other one was fake. They mentioned it being full of bricks, didn't they? I think. There's some quick line between Wonder Woman and Batman where they're she said to him they're honouring bricks or something in Washington.
Yeah, I do like that fact on the one in Washington in that coffin. It's the actual black and silver. Yeah. It's the Death of Superman comic cover. I thought that was a good touch.
Will he have the mullet, do you think, when he comes back? The mullet and the gun.
I hope he comes back with a black and silver
I
suit.
think the black and silver suit is what he's going to come back in.
He just comes out, he merges with the coffin. I control wood.
I'd watch a coffin beat someone up for 2 hours. That'd be great.
Just a square boss. Saving money, though.
So with Suicide Squad coming up as the next DC beastie, that I don't know. What are your opinions of the trailers for that so far and their
Second
version
trailer as
of
well.
the
Second trailer's
Joker?
great. Okay. Suicide Squad's a weird one because I think...
It seems to be the dirty dozen with superheroes.
Yeah, but tonally it's a hard one to get right. Like, the comics themselves coast on a sort of level of weirdness, but I don't know any... Like, Marvel could almost do it. DC, so far, their track record wouldn't inspire me, hopefully, for them to get this right, because the second trailer is perfect. The second trailer is spot on, tone-wise, everything. But now they've said that every single joke in the movie is in that trailer, hence the reshoots. So if the film is going to be more like that first trailer...
I didn't notice any jokes.
I'm
I'm not impressed with Harlequin. She's too coy for my liking.
I am not loving Margot Robbie's version of it yet. I mean, I'll wait till I see it fully in motion before I judge it. But
I think she looks
she
brilliant.
looks great, but
She looks the
I don't
part.
like the accent's missing and the humor's a bit forced.
Yeah,
I'm the bad guy.
I think it's the one thing that everyone was kind of outraged was the Joker's appearance, how he looked with the tattoos and everything. Everyone felt like it was just too forced, but I hope that they bring that into context as to show.
Have you noticed though that, like, in the trailers since that first image, they really, whatever way they've desaturated the image, you can't see those tattoos as much anymore.
I just hope that.
Oh, you think they've taken them off?
No, I think they're still there. Like, but that damaged one on the forehead is just ridiculous.
Yeah,
But it is inspired by one of the comics, though, isn't it?
There was some alternate run where he had a big dragon tattoo.
There
I
was
can't
a
remember.
big tattoo Joker at one stage.
But it wasn't the mainstream one. It was one of kind of the offshoot
Again,
ones.
the good Jokers had so many personas. I mean, when did he go full on psycho? Was until the mid 70s, I think. And then the first big effect he had on Batman, which is referred to in the film when he killed Jason Todd. So I mean, don't forget that also sets the Batman Superman film set in a universe where we've already had the Joker running amok.
Which I'm so happy about, because if they're going to do solo Batman movies, I do not want to see 5 origin Robin origins, a Nightwing origin, a Batgirl origin. Just do a movie where they're all already set up and go. Because I think that was Jenna Malone was cast as allegedly Barbara Gordon in this movie, and she'll be in the extended cut. So I'm guessing she's probably already paralyzed. She'll probably be Oracle.
so they've already went and done the Killing Joke. At that point, it's already gone. You can't go back and do it if she's already paralyzed. And that's one of the best Batman Joker stories of all time.
Which they're doing an animated form, which will be great.
The trailer for that is amazing.
For an animated version of it.
Yeah,
Joker,
Mark Hamill going
Kevin
back to
Conroy.
And is
voice
it
the
inspired
Joker.
by the Boland artwork?
Brian?
Isn't that Boland artwork Killing Joke?
I think so.
I should know this. Yeah.
No, it is. It's Alan Moore and Brian Boland.
Yeah.
Well, it looks
Brian
pretty
Boland's
spot on.
The
visually,
man
yeah.
who takes it forever to finish anything.
Longer than Alex Ross, even.
I think so, yeah.
Alex Ross should just stick to covers.
I know. Kingdom Come. Come on.
He does well.
Looks great.
So will we kind of wrap it up now and say goodbye to our wonderful listeners out there?
I feel like you've got something you want to say.
No, I actually honestly thought we'd go on for longer than this.
Oh no, I'm happy to talk. We're doing great, yeah.
Well, I feel like we might as well quickly just discuss these films going forward. Like, I know you kind of brought up Suicide Squad there. I hope it's good. I really hope it's good. Well,
back to not liking directors.
Yeah.
That director annoyed his last film.
David
Fury.
Ayer, yeah. Didn't see it actually.
I liked Fury. I just want to put that out there.
I didn't.
Did it scream good Suicide Squad movie to you though?
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't like the colors of the artillery in Fury though. That was the one thing that kind of bothered me.
Specific nitpick to have.
The green and red lasers coming from the tanks. Like, it was very. It kind of killed it for me a little bit, but I really enjoyed everything else. I enjoyed the acting and cinematography.
Based on what you know of Suicide Squad, where do you think the plots are going to come for?
I've actually never read
one?
Suicide Squad before, so this is
familiar with it.
new territory for me.
Yeah, I started reading the New 52 run of it, which everyone apparently hated. I loved, and then I went back and read the first run. Well, not the first run of the 50s, because that's not even. It doesn't matter. The 80s run by John Ostrander, or what's his name? Doesn't matter. His run in the 80s, which I think this is kind of taking some stuff from, where it's Enchantress as the villain sort of thing. So it seems like the main plot of this movie is taking the whole Enchantress as sort of pseudo double agent, where she just gets possessed, and then that's kind of the main villain. It looks like from the trailers, but it also seems to be New 52, and that Harley Quinn's there. possible romantic Deadshot thing.
So we're talking supernatural aspects are going to come into this.
Oh yeah, I don't see all the big weird tree monsters in the trailer.
They were very. You didn't see them as much, but like they were sort of.
How long is this new trailer?
It's about
the one with the Queen soundtrack.
3
3
months.
Yes.
But there's obviously something that's like turning the train.
It looks like Groot.
The oncoming train into like plasma or something like that. I can't explain it.
Well, even the likes of El Diablo, like he's just a man with flamethrower tattoos. So the supernatural thing is definitely in there.
A man who burns people.
But don't forget, Marvel are trying to get that in there as well now.
Well, that's the thing. Like DC kind of beat them to it weirdly. They got the magic stuff in pretty quickly, whereas Marvel's only still getting there now. Which
but
Doctor Strange.
I like the way Stephen Strange has been referred to in multiple movies going forward. Like I like the fact that it's just been built and you're aware that he's there, but now it's finally gonna.
But those set images though, there's him and there's Benedict Cumberbatch in New York with that giant, massive cape and collar. I was like, this looks good, like authentically visual looking. Like visually, it's authentic looking, but also looks real dumb.
This is the second attempt at Doctor Strange.
There are the TV movies in there.
TV movie in '77, I think. Which was pretty awful. And again, with all of this, that '70s Marvel television, they didn't like it. They felt it was all too silly. They couldn't embrace. You see,
wasn't there a Daredevil one as well?
There was a Daredevil popped up in the Hulk. They had made several Hulk movies, but the guy who adapted Hulk for television, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He basically took the format of The Fugitive from 1960s television, which is a man on the run story. Stops off, meets some people, changes their lives, moves on while he's being chased. In this case, it was the Hulk. And Thor was brought into that universe. Kingpin was brought into that universe, but all very briefly, and it didn't really stick. And I don't know if you've ever seen the old Spider-Man on YouTube from that time.
Clips. I wouldn't actually watch a full episode.
But they all kept to those television values. They didn't embrace the silliness and think that they could do the silly and the serious all wrapped up in one. That's what I like about this, the possibilities of this one.
The possibilities are great. I think they need to get rid of Zack Snyder. They need to get rid of Goyer. There's rumors of George Miller being brought in to kind of executive produce these things. That'd be amazing.
Direct
Justice League Mortal,
wasn't he?
That was
with Armie Hammer as Batman. In hindsight, I wouldn't mind seeing that movie now. After Mad Max, I'm like, you know what? I'd actually watch a Justice League movie directed by George
Hammer's
Miller.
okay.
It's not a bad choice.
He's a good actor. I mean, as I said,
good big square head. That's what you want for Batman.
that jaw.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the Suicide Squad coming up, and then we have 2 Marvels this year. Is it?
We still have Civil
Captain
War
America
and Doctor Strange.
And they're the only 2 for this year.
Yes, I believe.
It's usually 2 a year now, isn't it?
I think they're moving into 3 a year from now on.
You have the Marvel Fox when they're doing the X-Men movie as well, but that's obviously its own.
We had Deadpool as well, which is kind of.
Well, that's the other interesting aspect with that. Again, from the Uber nerd world, is that Sony are embracing the Marvel universe and vice versa. So they've given their loan out of their little beastie Spider-Man for Civil War.
See, the cool thing,
and apparently they're going to do the same for Spider-Man when it comes out in a year's time.
Well, the cool thing about DC is like they have the license for all of their characters. Like unlike Marvel, they have all this potential, but they're not reaching it.
They just can't find the people to make them. Yeah, it's weird. Like I know there was a joke going around after Batman Superman came out. Like all the comments on YouTube were just give the rights back to Marvel. And I actually wouldn't mind seeing what Marvel did with DC's license at this point. That'd be interesting. So yeah,
they have a good system where they would bring in young directors. With they got Peyton Reed to do Ant-Man. I felt like that was really good.
Whatever happened to the Shazam movie that was being talked?
That's still happening, I think. But even when that was first announced, they sort of said it mightn't be connected to the Justice League movies, because there's a Sandman movie as well. Swords were in production, but I think that's also falling apart.
Fell apart, didn't it?
Yeah, but again, that wouldn't have been part of this universe. It still would have been a Warner Brothers DC production, but it wouldn't be part of this universe. I think Shazam was sort of loosely in that same nebulous, it might be, it mightn't be kind of thing. But I think that is still happening because I haven't heard anything about it.
I think they should have
Well, if you got The Rock playing Black Adam, you have to put that in there.
Yeah, one of the things that DC should have for them is they should be able to have a supervillain movie, like Sony before that whole.
Sinister Six.
Yeah, because they were going to do Sinister Six, and then there's talk of a Venom movie. But if they are going to give the rights to Marvel, where is that universe going to be? What are they going to do with that? It's unless they continue and Sony have their own Spider-Man universe where they keep Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
So with
Please
Sony's
no. Please no.
I don't know. I like it. I like
Sony's
Spider-Man.
ownership of that Spider-Man world, what exactly do they own?
I think it's just like it's a share of the rights, so they can have their own actor playing in his own.
But can they own any of the heroes that pop up in the Spider-Man world?
Oh no, they still own
originated.
everything. Yeah, no, they still own everything Spider-Man related. They can put him in Marvel if they want to. I think because the Hulk as well is the rights to the Hulk are Universal, I think.
Yeah.
But Marvel are allowed to use him for like team movies, but Marvel can't make a solo Hulk movie, which is why he's always going to be in the Avengers or Thor Ragnarok. He'll never get his own solo movie because Marvel can't make that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's kind of the same with Spider-Man, whereby Sony still gets the rights to make solo Spider-Man movies, but he does technically now share a universe with Marvel.
But with the solo Spider-Man movie, who's going to be helming that? Like, what studio? Is that Sony or is
It's
that Marvel?
Sony, but Marvel have some creative input over now, which I assume means Sony will go, here's our script, fix it, and then they'll just throw it out.
Pick a good director.
Yeah, and a good writer. That isn't,
I hope they do.
what's his name from main Spider-Man 2?
I really hope they do the Cravens.
Oh,
Final Hunt.
Craven's that one.
Garland, was it?
No, it wasn't Garland. It was Robert Orsi and what's his face that also wrote Lost. Bad people, just bad people.
It was pretty bad, all right.
It was atrocious. Well, actually, that was the one thing about Batman Superman that I got really depressed at. That whole press kit hero setup thing reminded me so much of main Spider-Man 2 with the room of future films they walk through. Like there's
Such a tease.
there's Doc Ock's arms.
Something that
and
might
there's,
never happen as well.
I wonder, as an
Terrible.
audience members, do we have a right to all get together and sue them because they didn't finish off the third film?
I didn't want them to. It was so
No,
terrible.
I wanted to, whether it was good or bad, I wanted to see what the hell was going to happen.
I wanted to see what the hell happened with Spider-Man versus Rhino. That pissed me off to no end.
And a big hunger to see the Vulture on screen.
Yeah.
If they actually cast someone old, I wouldn't mind seeing that. My worry would be they'll go young with that one, in the same way they did with Green Goblin by having I love what's his face who played Green Goblin.
Defoe.
No, not Defoe. Defoe was amazing. No.
You mean Hobgoblin?
Yeah.
James Franco?
No, not James Franco. No, in the Amazing Spider-Man universe.
Dane DeHaan.
Dane DeHaan, thank you. I love him as an actor.
He was
but
really good in Chronicle as
He was
well.
great. He's great in everything apart from Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, his version of the
He
Goblin
kind of Eisenberg that one a bit.
that was god awful.
Yeah.
So the only other Marvel stuff going on outside of the Marvel universe is Fox and Sony.
Yes.
And Fox are really latching on to X-Men big time. They've been pushing them out really hard.
Well, they're guaranteed moneymakers.
Yeah,
or at
but
least
they
they
were
were when
lax
Hugh
for
Jackman.
a while. I mean, and there's
Yeah.
a Wolverine coming out next year as well. The final
Potentially
Wolverine.
Old Man
The
Logan.
Old Man
yeah.
Logan story.
Okay, what do you guys think of Deadpool? Just to go a little bit back.
I'm going to sense by your t-shirt you liked it.
I'm Deadpool's biggest fan.
But we were just saying that if that Deadpool movie had come out, say, 9 years ago, I wonder if it would have been as successful. I don't
I
think
think
so.
it wouldn't have been as successful, but it would have been a hell of a lot more mind-blowing. My biggest problem with that Deadpool movie, which I really did enjoy, was that I think Marvel Studios have kind of ruined that character because even though they don't have the rights to him, Tony Stark kind of became that in the movies. Everyone in the Marvel universe now is very quippy and pop culture referencing, which wasn't really in the comics very much pre-2008, whereas now that is the norm, so Deadpool didn't seem quite as adventurous or different. I said that movie was still great, but it could have been even like something like Kick-Ass.
Again, did they have to get the rights from 20th Century Fox to do Deadpool?
No,
Because
Fox made Deadpool.
Fox made it.
So it was Fox.
Yeah,
so
Fox. That's the shared
not-
universe.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
Deadpool and X-Men, and
I
also
get
Fantastic
confused
Four would have
sometimes.
been.
That's
Whereas
what
the last time we saw Deadpool, before that, he was a head at the bottom of a very large chimney,
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
and his mouth was sealed closed.
That was the worst.
And it
thing
doesn't
ever.
really fit in with this at all, does it? So it's
It's been quietly disregarded, I think.
But again, I think it did really well, as much because it was like so different. The tone had been set, so there was room to break it and go against it, and that's why it makes it refreshing to people.
But also it did well because it was Deadpool. Like the reason that last Deadpool appearance was so reviled because it wasn't that character. They had the name, they had something approaching the visual, but nothing else. This movie was authentically Deadpool, and Deadpool fans, which are very numerous and loud.
He was
loved
melty
it.
at the very start.
Yeah.
Oh, the opening credits were just magical. But great movie. Yeah, I think the Deadpool thing is interesting though because it's obviously was R-rated and made all of the money, and now we're getting, of course, the 3-hour R-rated Batman v Superman cut. I don't know how that's going to be. Like, what can they add in? We saw Superman with a gaping hole
I
in his
don't
chest
think
at
Superman
PG-13.
and
Batman said shit once. Like, what more can they add in?
Funny enough, I was watching a very old Doctor Who episode, and I saw John Pertwee as Doctor Who in Betsy, and he said shit, but it was an outtake. And I was going, I'd love to put that up beside the Batman one. I don't know. I don't think Superman and Batman should be R-rated.
No, like Suicide Squad should definitely be R-rated. But
I would like
PG-13.
to see.
I think.
I would like to see an extended cut. I don't really care about the R-rated. Like
Yeah.
as long as they
I'd love to see
extend.
them really tie stuff up that way.
What they should tie up is Batman going and getting the kryptonite. I think that needs to be seen.
I thought that was a lovely cheeky lack of a scene.
So did I, but it did make me question why couldn't he have just got it at the end of the car chase? Like there was no need to have the car end in failure and then just have a.
It was. They
Could've called-
needed
could've called the
a
Batwing.
car
Oh, the
chase.
Superman scene. Well, no, yeah, I love that car chase, even though he murdered everyone in it.
A lot of people died.
Like, just the bit when he uses the other car as a wrecking ball. Like, that's. No, I'm sorry. That's not what Batman does.
But back to what we were saying earlier,
Yes.
there was so much expected of you to go, yeah, we get the rules, there's the bad guys, and this guy's very rich, so he's got little threads of intelligence everywhere. So, of course, he knows all these things. They expected a bit too much. Apparently, one of the Russian characters is a reference to
KG Beast,
Yeah, he's going to be.
He's dead. He blew up, didn't he?
Did he?
Well, he was wearing a flamethrower that then exploded on his back, so I think he's probably dead.
And there was a few lines of dialogue as well stolen from Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, there was so much in Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
I know you will. Like when he was like,
Yeah.
I'll kill her, and he's like, I know you will, or I believe you. Even that's
That's
what
right,
he
I
said.
believe you. Yeah.
They did that with one of the mutant leaders.
And sure, of course, but that's what Zach does. By the way, just I know it's nothing to do with this, but Watchmen. Did you like any of you guys like Watchmen?
I loved Watchmen.
Really liked it the first time I watched it. I hadn't read the comic at that point, and then I've since read the graphic novel, and I kind of love the movie and the graphic novel, but for different reasons. Like, I think it is a good movie.
It can only be for different reasons.
Yeah, the graphic novel is far superior, even though I kind of prefer the ethical change at the end.
It's funny that's as much a reason for where we are now. I think with all these films, as much as Dark Knight Returns gets mentioned in that ilk, because if that stayed with the universe and the idea of the kind of the norm of the people put on a suit with people in a much stronger fashion, I think, than Dark Knight Returns.
But it's funny that like Alan Moore's whole point was that this wouldn't work in the real world if it's just an actual man in an actual suit doing crime fighting, and then everyone took that to mean, oh, this is so good when it's gritty and realistic. It's like, you're missing the point completely. This needs to be kind of slightly heightened, which I think.
But don't forget, it
bits
still
of
comes
this-
out of a deep love, and he's still been playing
Does
with
it?
those values. Well, look at his Tom Strong and all that. Such nods to old Pulp, Doc Savage, Tarzan. I mean, he really is just kind of on a similar line of thought to people like Philip Jose Farmer and Michael Moorcock, who are robbing pulp characters and reinventing them for their own uses. And the original Watchmen idea was to take a load of DC characters that had been kind of in a coma for 20, 30 years, and he wasn't allowed to mess with them. People like the Blue Beetle and all that.
Yeah.
I would
And
love to have
that's-
seen that version of
yeah.
things. Like the questions that are Rorschach, that'd be amazing.
Well, it would have had a huge impact on the DC
Oh, it would have
universe
broken
if it
everything,
had gotten true. But we're here now, and it's been a long road to get this weird place where suddenly it's a giant series of movies. I mean, Marvel's Phase 3 it's even bigger in terms of the amount of movies than
I'm pretty sure it's
first
something
two
like
phases.
10 films between
yeah,
now and.
it matches both
Infinity
phases
War,
together.
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And there's no Hulk movie.
They can't do one. Universal own the rights, but also no one knows how to make a Hulk movie because I mean they tried twice. Neither are terrible. But
Get
neither
them
are-
off planet. You start at the end of another movie that we've never seen, where the Avengers go, okay, we've had enough of you, and you send them off to Planet Hulk, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Could have done it at the end of Age of Ultron. He looked up into the bloody sky in the Quinjet, and I was like, yes, it's like they're going to do Planet Hulk. And then, no, nothing. They're like,
I'd say
he-
they'll probably do bits of it in Ragnarok.
Yeah,
he's in space now.
He's
for
going to
some
be
reason.
on a planet for
Yeah.
a little bit, and then Thor will be like, okay, come on over, hang out with me for a bit, man.
Speaking of which, everyone's getting very excited about Marvel based on the fact that DC seem to have failed in the critics' eyes and certain fans, right? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I hate to say this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks potentially as bloated as Ultron was in terms of trying to fit in so much.
Do you mean Civil War or
Civil War, sorry, yeah. There's an awful lot of characters to be introduced. I mean, I know we have Spider. I mean, in the understanding of the comic books, where Spider-Man's quite important in Civil War, if I remember right.
Yeah,
He
And it
is.
doesn't look like he's going to be as important in this film.
I think Black Panther is taking that role because they'd already started filming before
Yeah.
they got the rights to Spider-Man.
Oh wow!
So originally, when they announced Civil War and they brought out Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, they had Chadwick Boseman, who's playing Black Panther, come out between them, and it was kind of like, he's gonna switch sides once or twice, or like a couple of characters will swap sides because they don't want to fight each other. And I think the Russo brothers, after what they've done with Captain America: The Winter Soldier, they have a really great formula between ultra realism, like grittiness, and a superhero movie because they can have people in costumes, they can have these big aircraft carrier fights, and it's unbelievable. I can't wait to see what they do with it.
I think Civil War, I'm looking forward to it an awful lot because, again, Winter Soldier is probably the best of the Marvel movies anyway. But I feel the Russos, I feel they're still going to be hampered by the studio mandates and like putting Spider-Man in, that kind of thing.
Well, isn't that what Whedon cried about with Ultron?
Oh yeah, and
He
it
was
definitely
being
showed.
interfered with too much.
But that guy, what's the man's name? Alan something, who was the head of creative at Marvel, he's gone now because Disney bought out Marvel Studios wholesale. So that creative input won't be as tampered with anymore. But I feel like, like you're saying, there's too many characters. Spider-Man technically shouldn't be in that movie because they started shooting before he even came back.
Yeah.
So I think it will be bloated, it will be messy, but I think the heart, or at least the bones of what the Russos probably had in their heads since 2000 and what was your year, Captain America, 2014, probably will still make it good.
I think the
And also-
Spider-Man moment is going to be their version of when Hulk
Wonder Woman shows
finally
up, though.
spoke in Avengers and said, "Puny God."
I think what'll be good is
Their fight won't end with the mother's name.
well, like you were saying, it's the bones of it. I think
Yeah.
essentially
The Bucky Rogers plot will be the main thing. Everything else
Yeah,
will be fluff.
but like in terms of like you're saying that are they juggling these characters? The actual Civil War comic features 3 times the amount. Also has Daredevil featuring like really heavily and having actually one of the most prominent scenes of the whole series where he has I think it's silver coin under his tongue and he gets someone to give it to Tony Stark, and that's obviously, here's your 2 pieces of silver, Judas.
wow.
Had that reference to it because Daredevil had been locked up.
It's another thing that we have to have a lot of these days, I notice, is religious references.
Yeah, because Daredevil was actually, he's a Catholic.
That would make sense,
He's
That's right. But by the way, who's going to be the true villain of Civil War?
Hydra again, probably.
Well, like they also have who is your man who played in Rush?
Yes. Oh no, hang on, what?
Rush. He.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, Daniel Bruhl.
Yeah,
he's playing Zemo,
Baron
Baron
Zemo.
Yeah.
So he hasn't been shown in the trailers
And
at
is
all.
Andy
But
Serkis
Martin
going to
Freeman
turn up again?
No,
No,
he'll be in
he'll
Black
be in
Panther.
Black Panther
Okay, they're going to wait for Black
because he's a Black Panther villain. He
Yeah, I know
killed
that,
Black
yeah.
Panther's father in the comics.
But also, Martin Freeman's character hasn't really been elaborated on yet.
I
either,
don't know what
so
he's
he'll
gonna do.
probably be the villain too.
Crossbones is going to be. In,
Oh, Freeman is in it. Of course, I forgot about that.
Frank Grillo. He's in the movie as
Is
Crossbones.
Jackson turning up in this one?
Probably.
Probably at some point. He'll
Is
have
it-
a
yeah,
cameo.
they'll have a barn somewhere for him to
He
sit
must
in.
be almost out of his
beside a
9 by
tractor.
now, is he?
Hmm?
He must be almost out of his 9 contract by now.
Out of his 9s.
He's just
Gotta be
he's
close.
a great Nick Fury.
He is a good Nick Fury.
I'd say there's a few more in him. I mean, he didn't have much to do in Age of Ultron, in fairness.
Well, if say he could have had the ultimate say, like if he wanted out of his contract, he could have stayed dead in Winter Soldier. But I think he enjoys what he does. Like that role.
It's pretty easy. All he's just walk around in a jacket playing himself for 10
Speaking
minutes
of
a
which,
day.
it sounds like there are a couple of deaths on the way in terms of characters.
in
Captain America, we know.
Okay, he'll die, yeah.
Peggy Carter will die.
Really?
Well, she's
she's old.
She's
Yeah, I
already
was thinking
old and
Sharon Carter,
dementia stricken. Someone else, a big
Downey has said he's kind of all Iron Man who.
We'll see
He has to come back for Infinity War.
if
though,
they
contracts.
announced that there was going to be an Iron Man.
Oh,
4.
actually, can we quickly go into that? Did anyone see the money he's getting paid for Infinity War? So they went into pre-production on this a couple of months ago, and they set the budget for, because it's 2 movies. The 2 movies at $1 billion as the production budget. Take a wild stab at how much of that goes to Robert Downey Jr.
65 million.
You're closer. It's somewhere in the region of 300 million, just for Robert Downey Jr.
gonna go out there on a limb and gonna say, well, I don't think he's worth it.
No, he's not. I loved him at first. I can't stand him or his character anymore. That sequence in the trailer where it's the two of them beating the shit out of him.
The most successful heroin addict in the world.
He's reformed.
Reformed heroin addict in the world.
I love him. Like even in the trailer when he has the gadget.
I know, I don't mind
that's
him.
cool,
I'm just saying that he shouldn't be worth 300
No, he's not
million.
worth 300.
But this, like, Tony Stark he's supposed to be the bad guy. Like this will be his turn to change, like, people like yourself, like, change their minds on how they view the character by seeing him in a different light. Where he's in Age of Ultron, he was very conflicted, where he wanted to protect the world so much that he ended up almost destroying everything.
Yeah, and the fact that he expects to be listened to in this next movie, it makes it very unbelievable.
Well, yeah, as people have pointed out, like, it's funny him going to Cap and saying, "Oh, we have to be accountable for the things we did." Yeah, the things you did. You built the murder robot. You caused all of this.
You built the murder bot. But I think he's going to be taking a very hardline approach to it, as with it. There's no way to sort of PR yourself out of this. Like, you're going to have to imprison people. Like, that's why there's that floating prison in the ocean.
Yeah. I'm amused by the continuity of getting General Ross back in the game.
I was so happy with that. I was so happy with that.
Because in fairness now, who was our original General Ross in the really bad
Ang Lee one? I have no idea.
That was Sam Waterston, I think, you'll know him from the narrator of Big Lebowski. Right. And he's a great actor, and he was fine as Ross. There was no need to have a different one, but Hurt is a great actor too, so it's good to see him come back. I hope he turns into the Hulk.
Red Hulk, yeah, that would be good.
Sans mustache.
That'd be unbelievable. Like that would be a massive, WTF moment in the movie, I think.
Yeah, well, what would happen though after that?
It'd be weird to have that happen without Mark
Well, isn't
Ruffalo
there talk
in
the
movie.
Hulk is going to turn up in this?
No, they cut his scenes out. Yeah. I think he did shoot them though.
Cut his scenes?
He only had like one scene apparently, but it's been cut, yeah.
No, but when I say the Hulk, I mean the Hulk, not Bruce Banner.
Could be after credit sequence leading into Ragnarok though.
They need to explain that somehow. So yeah.
So the Ragnarok one, just to move on to that for a second, that is what way does that fall into the Thor universe? Is it based on a series of comics?
Yeah, like I say, I've not read it, but I've kind of skimmed it.
Yeah, Thor
it is some major arc.
Thor's again. Don't forget, Thor's origin has changed dramatically since the old days when it was Kirby and Stan Lee.
If he couldn't hold the hammer, he'd change back to human again.
Well, don't forget, he was just a very he was a disabled doctor. Don't forget.
In mentioning that there, where he's not holding the hammer turns to human, that kind of still that's happening right now because Thor is actually a woman in the comics.
Oh, it's
Thor is Jane Foster, who is terminally ill with cancer.
Who's been to read it actually?
Wasn't she his nurse in the old comics?
You think so?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was in love with him. And
she's now being treated for cancer.
So just for people who don't know, Dr. Blake used to have a stick. It was an alien invasion. He hid in a cave in Norway, and he found Thor's hammer. And every time he taps his stick, he gets to turn into Thor. And Jane is this nurse that's madly in love with him, but he doesn't really know about it. So that origin has gotten totally lost. No one's ever going to do that film version. Which brings us back to Ant-Man, neatly enough. I love.
This has been a great DC podcast, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was never a DC podcast. It was a start-off point.
We're more excited about Marvel now, I think.
I was just going to say that. Like, it's funny that we're talking about all the future Marvel movies and not the future DC movies.
We've got our second wind on Marvel.
Well, we did. We talked about Suicide Squad and
very briefly.
Wonder Woman is too vague and too Captain America.
See,
to not get us back to Marvel comics.
There's no context where we can talk about what's going to happen in the future of DC because there's only been 2 movies. Whereas
Man of Steel and
Batman Superman. Whereas with Marvel, you have the last 8 years of movies,
4 different TV shows.
Yeah,
some of which are good.
Oh yeah, like Daredevil. Is one of the greatest TV shows I've ever watched. Like,
Agent Carter's not very good.
I find it amusing.
It's very I love
disposable. That golden Hollywood.
The aesthetic is great. I love the aesthetic, but it's very meh.
And it's good to see heroines kicking ass. You know.
Yeah.
There's not enough of that.
It's very 90s feminism, though. Just, here she is beating men up. Feminism.
Men from the 50s.
Which, evidently deserve it more. But, yeah.
I think
they are still, but a lot of the stuff that's evolving in Agent Carter is going to pay off within the greater scheme of things.
I watched 2 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they've always been promising that. It's never happened. The Inhumans thing will pay off.
I did like the cleanup stuff from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after Age of Ultron. There was some reference.
Well, like that's spilled now where they're now dealing with their own thing. That's why there's not so much continuity between the cinematic universes to the TV, because they're too busy dealing with the Inhuman thing. So they've got their own arc going on, which is really smart in a sense, where they can incorporate Civil War in season 4. But they're all so busy that's why, you know, when Iron Man 3, like, he couldn't call anyone else because his story happened in a certain amount of time. So he's so busy he can't go, but like, oh, I need Hulk. He can just obviously knock this guy out for me. But with the TV show, they're obviously constantly doing something. They don't have any days off. They can't be like, oh, we could just get the Avengers to help out with the Inhuman thing. I'm pretty sure that's what's on most like casual.
There was one critique I heard about the upcoming Civil War was that have they not raised the bar too high in terms of the apocalyptic angle? Because if I'm right, the premise is coming off that they need licenses to be superheroes, or they need more controls because of all the madness that's been associated with them, starting with Avengers, and then moving on
it's
to
collateral damage. It's money and the lives that are being lost from their actions. But at the end of the day, they're the ones saving the world. They're the ones most qualified to defend it. Like what Black Widow said at the end of
a lot of neurotic people in suits.
You know, like, oh, we'll wear we'll wear suits and capes and masks, and we'll fight the aliens and the bad guys because no one else is good enough to do it. Like,
I'm going to bang on a bit Thanos again. So is there a chance that Thanos might turn up in this movie?
I
doubt it.
No, because Vision's still in it, and he's only just getting this thing where when Thanos eventually shows up, the only reason he's going to come to Earth is to take the Infinity Stone from Vision's head. So that's going to be quite strange.
There could be a Vision sequence or something where he like kind of gets like a some kind of headache and sees Thanos, or Thanos tries to find. It's like
they did it. They did it in Guardians, where they realized that all these things, and then they did it in Age of Ultron, where Ultron was like, you know,
you see the
all
glow,
these stones, and you see the stones together in this kind of cloud that shaped a globe.
I love that visual. Yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, that's good. They like, see, that's the thing. Like, Marvel are so smart where they can fit these things into like a 30-second afterthought, but it's a massive plot point for what's happening in the future. Whereas I think DC aren't there.
Again, that's why I thought the Flash bit was really well done, because like, that felt like
it
you
felt
won't
like
get
Marvel
it.
Would do,
exactly. It was a Marvel thing. You won't get it if you're
natural.
casual, but you'll forget about it. Whereas if you know what you're looking for, that's really cool.
Well, like we were saying about these post-credit sequences, that DC feel that they shouldn't go there because it's a Marvel thing.
I don't.
That Flash moment could have been a nice post-credit scene as well.
I am genuinely surprised Darkseid didn't show up. I was convinced we'd at least see like his outline or something. I was shocked that he didn't make any kind of appearance.
Well, you saw that Apocalypse alien creature thing, the demon thing in the deleted scene.
Yeah, but that's
the closest thing that you'll get.
I think that's one of his lieutenants, so that's not him.
Although I it's very weird, but I think the reason why they deleted it is because it was almost kind of phallic, where he was on his knees and you couldn't see anything.
Yes, it was, but then again, the opening of Man of Steel, where all the dicks fly into space, and the fact that every building looks like a vagina is, I don't think being a bit phallic is a problem at this point.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that until there.
Well, Zack Snyder likes his H.R. Geiger, definitely. It's the whole Krypton design is
He's bound to this naked creature thing in that alien ship, and I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. Well, like when I first saw it, like my mind,
it's a bit weird, but I still wouldn't mind have seen that scene. I think it's because it's again, like, that tiny scene explained a huge plot hole. It did. That was 40 seconds long. Like, that's why the 3-hour cut will hopefully salvage this to a point.
That's a good point. It could have spent a lot more time in the spaceship, and it would have eased off from. Okay, he has a plan.
Yeah, there needs to be something in place. Yeah. Like, where did that alien come from? Did he come from a portal? Like, they have the
weird metal,
the corridor thing that the Flash, like, everyone said that the Flash traveled through that cosmic corridor or whatever it's called.
Well, again, in terms of high speed plot, the way he got into that spaceship in the first place was kind of ridiculous.
It's like, is
that character going to turn up again? The guy who found the kryptonite at the bottom of the sea, is he going to turn up again?
That was the guy that built Metallo.
There was a whole huge allusions to so much stuff that you're going, wow, that would have been so much interesting storytelling that we didn't get to see.
Yeah.
I mean, because again, that's within the DC world, that was a pretty successful alien invasion compared to the Marvel one in Age of Ultron.
I think, like, for the Batman aspect of Batman vs Superman and the Superman aspect of Batman vs Superman, they should have gone to like the most prominent writers and got them to consult on the script with.
Yeah.
Did you see the thank yous at the end? There was a huge thank you list there to a lot of comic book writers. I wonder whether that was just thank you for the influence and the inspiration, or did they talk to them?
I'd say
I think Jeff Johns was involved in some level of this, but not much, I guess.
But going back to people getting blamed and pointed to, it's like pointing to presidents and heads of government, because I don't think they're really in charge. I think they might have a fairly unique voice, but they're still talking to a committee, no matter what the thing is. It's a franchise, it's a business. A lot of money is made, a lot of money is paid out to people. And it's kind of wrong to slap one person on the wrist over it all being
It's essentially, like it even referred to in the movie, it's a democracy, people talk.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what they're doing.
Well, filmmaking is that at the end of the day. It's collaboration. Obviously, the book has to stop with somebody.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, Zack Snyder is the one who has his name on the front. So I think that's why he's the one getting the flack. I think.
A friend of mine said an interesting thing about Christopher Nolan's Batman, and he said he felt that Nolan was not comfortable with superheroes.
Really?
And everything. No, but with the iconography, as you know.
I fully agree with that statement.
Yeah, and you can see it in the way he creates his villains, etc. I mean, Joker's a good example of it. I mean, that's essentially Henry, Escape from Henry, portrait of a serial killer aspects of that character. Whereas Zach is trying to embrace all of that kind of loveliness that can become camp, and I think is one of
trying to be Nolan.
Yeah.
Well, Nolan's still producing these
Well,
things.
I don't know how much. I really wonder how much Nolan is involved anymore.
I wouldn't say he's doing much, but I still feel like Snyder probably feels somewhat weighed down by expectations of Nolan because Dark Knight made all that money. It's the Dark Knight is probably the most recognizable superhero film of the last 10 years. Tied with Avengers maybe, but I feel like Snyder felt like he had to do justice to Nolan's legacy of Batman and make it all serious and deep and meaningful, and instead just made it laughable. But
to go back a bit, you guys, what are your opinions of the three Batman movies with Bale? Do you like them?
I love them as films. I don't think they're great Batman films. The Batman Begins, I think, is really good. Dark Knight's a fantastic film. It's an okay Batman movie, and then Rises is a pretty mediocre film, but has some individual tiny great bits of Batman in them. Bale, though, I don't like. Never really cared for Bale. I think he's good in Batman Begins. Otherwise, I prefer Keaton, prefer Affleck, maybe even Kilmer. no,
but not Clooney.
Clooney is good if they were doing like a rebooted live action 60s show.
Well, it just
I think.
What about yourself, Scott?
In
terms of the Nolan movies,
me in regards to superhero movies, and I'm very casual. I just love them based on the fact that they're superhero movies. I'm like a child every time I go to see someone dressed as Batman.
Hang on, did you like Fantastic Four 2015?
No, I did not.
Good.
Yeah, but
That's an exception, man.
I think a 4-year-old would have been upset with that movie.
They'd be bored.
Shocked
They'd fall
by
asleep.
That film.
Yeah,
but that's interesting because again, the serious tone kind of raised a certain bar, and suddenly it was like you couldn't do anything else. You had to be really, you know.
Like for me, like these movies are tales to astonish. You know, I grew up on superhero, so when I see them on the screen, I'm like, yes. I'm like, finally, you know.
But no, again, it's lovely to see those when you suddenly see Batman and the tank and that. But no, spent so much time getting it just right in terms of believability. He did build up the Playboy notion quite well.
Yeah.
But Bale, first of all, it doesn't sit with me. I think he was a better actor as a child than he is as an adult. That's just me.
I think it's the DiCaprio problem of you can kind of see the acting all the time. Like he doesn't vanish into roles. He's always just doing the Christian Bale performance, and it's always very good, but it's still a performance you can see.
The one thing that I always stuck in my craw was the Batman voice.
Yeah.
Which is fine in Begins, and then suddenly it turns
that was one
to
good
crap
thing
in
that
Dark
Zack
Knight.
did. He had
the robot voice from Arrow.
I love that.
That made sense.
I did.
Doing that all the time, isn't it? Oh, come on, it's gonna kill you. You wouldn't want to be talking to your villains too much, would you?
No. Especially when you're explaining like plot points to Commissioner Gordon or something. And you're going home with a sore throat. You're like, I need a strepsil. That's why he has that utility belt. It's just full of strepsils.
I always loved in Dark Knight Rises that bit where he has to sort of exclaim in horror when Catwoman shoots Bane, and he goes, ugh, because he keeps the voice in. So he has to kind of do a but with the voice, it's like, ugh. It's absolutely preposterous. But
I'd forgotten that.
All the bad points just come flooding back now. And you're like, oh.
Can we actually quickly discuss in terms of Batman Superman? because I know I kind of brought this up earlier on with both of you, and you didn't seem to fully agree. Like, is it? Oh, my voice broke. All that Christian Bale just destroyed my throat. I don't think it's a very good or authentic version of either Batman or Superman. Okay, it's a sort of decentish Frank Miller Batman, I guess, but I thought fundamentally it's just wrong from the get-go. It didn't feel like Batman. I think this stems back to the fact they changed the origin for Superman and Batman in that their fathers gave them really weird advice in these movies. Like, Jonathan Kent's whole thing is, it's justifiable to let people die as long as you're on the right. And Thomas Wayne's thing, to me, seemed to be... Because usually when Joe Chill kills them, he just kills them. In Batman Superman, you see Thomas Wayne going for the punch first.
Yeah.
He gets shot out of reaction rather than getting shot first, you know what I mean?
Well, there's a question, did his actions cause his death?
Exactly, yeah, which usually it isn't that case. That's not the case.
But then doesn't Pa Kent make a point that one action can do a good thing and cause a bad thing?
Exactly, yeah. As long as you're in the right and save your own kind, it's okay if you let other people die.
The lesson there is damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Which, yeah, is true, and it's interesting. I actually quite like Batman Superman for just how morally compromised it is, but I think it sort of misses the point of at least Superman. I don't mind Batman being morally compromised to an extent, but at least with Superman, he shouldn't be that morally grey from the get-go.
Well, who learned the lesson at the end of the film? Superman ends up dead.
Well, they have their out-martyrdom complex.
Yeah, I think Superman learned his lesson before his own death. It's like, not everyone stays good. I think that's the thing. He was too naive and everything. He didn't realize how deep these bad guys will go to get what they want, especially from him. Like, he essentially had to bow before Lex Luthor.
Bowing before little weenie.
Yeah, and
who's
making
very
him
good
go
at basketball.
Yeah, and make him go kill someone just so his mother will survive. Like, that's real deep and something that the lightheartedness and the campness from Superman.
Don't forget, he's the third kind of there's two orphans in that film and one semi-orphan. and obviously he had a terrible father. Isn't there, in the comic books, Lex's father's pretty interesting demonic figure to Lex in several versions, if I remember rightly.
Well, the thing is about this Lex, though, I feel like they have mentioned the father just in case people didn't like this performance, and then they can get Bryan Cranston in and go, here's your real Lex Luthor for Justice League Part 2.
I don't think
that's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen.
But it's strange how they have such a young Lex Luthor, yet you have all these accomplished heroes like Batman already. You know, Wonder Woman's been around.
Yeah, 100 years at least. Well,
Lex only has these little files on them now.
But again, isn't it just reflective on what's happening at the moment with our young millionaires? And I mean, the Zuckerberg...
I think that's what
reference that people talk about.
What they tried to do with him was they tried to Zuckerberg him.
Well, did you hear what the casting was with that? Where they got Eisenberg in originally to read for Jimmy Olsen. For that Jimmy Olsen gets killed in the first scene. Jeez. The idea being that, like, Game of Thrones style, if we bring in a big name actor and have him killed in the first scene, you'd be like, oh, no one's safe. But then for some reason Zack Snyder went, you know what, you make a good Lex Luthor, play Lex Luthor, because Bryan Cranston was actually in talks. He was almost cast, and they went, no, Eisenberg, go for it.
He could have been in a
phenomenal. Was that the chat that Snyder had with his wife, and he went, isn't he a crazy little kid?
Yeah.
What can we get him to do?
Because he was supposed to be Jimmy Olsen, but then he ended up being Lex Luthor.
Just to go back on the Olsen thing, I thought it was... Jimmy had a sex change, had a Wachowski.
Yeah, Jenny Olsen is in the movie.
Jenny Olsen.
She's called Jenny Olsen in both. Well, she never called it by name, but she is in the script Jenny Olsen. And it is ignored it, I guess.
And poor Fishburne was wasted. I mean, I did want to see some more planets. But again, for everybody out there, go compare Superman the movie with the movie now, and it's kind of interesting how sensibilities have changed within how many years? God almighty,
40-ish,
nearly 40 years. Yeah. And it's still a good movie. And Donner fought for a more serious and revered attitude in that movie. That would have been as camp as the Batman of the 60s. If the producers, or the 90s, if the Salkins had their way. There was one scene in the film, I think, where he's going looking for Lex Luthor, and he finds Telly Savalas, who was a famous 70s actor who played Kojak.
And Blofeld and Pond.
And he says, "Who's looking at you, baby?" which was his catchphrase. And that was in the script. And also, the Salkins are these weird, kind of very wealthy people who made films. It's like they got to make movies, but they didn't need the money per se. They'd done, but they interestingly foreshadowed this desire to know that you've got your next movie coming, because they made a film in the 70s called The Three Musketeers. But they also made The Four Musketeers at the same time, but they didn't tell anybody. They caused a thing called the Salkin Clause, where you made sure there was a contract in. You couldn't get a contract for actors to make 2 films at once and paying for one.
Wow.
It's actually a very good movie. Funny enough, made by Richard Lester, who took over the directing chores on Superman 2. You all know the Richard Donner story in terms of he got sacked from Superman 2, though he'd shot 50% of it.
Yeah.
So they were clever in that they're covering 2 movies within one shoot, which went on for 18 months now. So, but it's interesting that though Donner really sold something beautiful, and it does get camp. It has its kind of high comedy moments, but they're nicely balanced with some very pastoral stuff of Superman growing up. And very interesting. Again, the religious stuff is in there big time, with Jor-El being the son of, or the father of Kal-El, and I give you my son and all that. I mean, it's not new to get all this religious iconography into Superman. But don't forget, Superman the movie is the reason that the S symbol is understood as being a heraldic image of the Kal-El's family. So, and the comics jumped on that and took it in. So the movies were feeding into the comics in the 1980s.
That's always a
kind
thing.
of interesting, and
that's
people have
frequently.
forgotten that.
Yeah.
But it's, and again, that film was sold in various lengths. There was a 2-hour version, and there's a 3-hour version of that film around if you want to go find it. And the Salkins would have done that based on the fact that you sold to the TV channels in America by the minute. So there was about 4 or 5 versions of Superman the movie knocking around. Never mind Superman
Based
2.
on what you could afford.
But then Lester, who had a funny relationship with the Salkins as well, they owed him money from the Musketeers. He finished Superman 2. Compared to those 2 films, Superman 2 with Lester is so much campier than Donner's version. And then he did Superman 3, which was the last expensive Superman film. There was another very low budget one.
I've seen the Moonfight clip. Yeah.
It's basically Richard Pryor. I think Pryor.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
It's an awful film.
Playing himself.
And I have watched it.
Robots or something.
I have watched it several times. Robert Vaughn comes in doing the Gene Hackman role of Lex Luthor, and Hackman was a good Luthor. But again, it's interesting that the lack of trust lasted for, or the bit of trust that Donner had to fight for lasted about 1 movie. And then as soon as someone else came in, they went back to just treating it in a childish way. And then we have the total opposite. They're being accused of treating the film too seriously. And I don't agree. I think there's a lot of good stuff. It might not be the greatest film ever, but it isn't the worst base for DC to start for. And I wouldn't be putting up the gravestone for DC just yet.
No, not by a long shot. I think like the movie is already like really successful worldwide. You're saying that it's taking a dip in sales.
Well, the rumor was they needed to make 800 million to get their money back, but they needed to make $1 billion for it to be seen as success in DC's eye or Warner Brothers' eyes, because everything makes $1 billion these days. Star Wars, Marvel, whatever. So,
but that's if you built a franchise out of it, which they haven't done just yet.
But the brand recognition alone should be enough to get this to $1 billion, and it probably would have got to $1 billion if it had been even slightly better than it was. But the word of mouth, no, it's on like 700 million worldwide, I think. But the drop off box office between weekend 1 and weekend 2 was something like 80%, which is unheard of in the modern era. Like it went from 600 million to, or not 600 million, it must have been like 300 million opening weekend to 50 million last weekend. Like the word of mouth is killing it. So it might make $1 billion, it might not.
DVD sales as well.
DVD sales will pop it over, yeah. But
and
even like nothing else came out these weekends. Like it had a clear run at the box office the last 2 weeks.
It did have
and it's still not doing well.
Oh, what about
Weekend
Zootropolis?
Meet the Blacks came out last weekend.
Don't knock Zootropolis. I mean,
Zootropolis
No, I heard that's
was
really good. I want to see that one.
I want to see that as well.
It's a very heartfelt movie.
Will we call it there, guys?
I suppose we should. If anyone's still listening, well done. Regular scheduled film talk will resume next time without as much nerdity.
Thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed this very much.
Thank you
Let's
both
do
for
it
coming.
again soon.
The next one, yeah. Goodbye.